morning from Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning, now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah, what a great way to start your day, the Lakey way.
Well, good morning, America. Good morning to the House of Lakey. Everybody tuned in. Glad to have you here on the program today. It's the first full day of the 47th president reign in office. And a lot of you hear the little jingle saying, I've got a good feeling about Jimmy Lakey in the morning. But some of you woke up this morning with a very good feeling because Donald Trump laid his sleepy head last night into the White House. I guess he got some sleep. I'm sure he's already going bright and early this morning. I was tired. We did the live show yesterday, the Casbar Cigar, back here to the House of Lakey, the Lakey Entertainment Towers now. And I'm telling you, I was tired of a big day, and got back here got everything set back up in the studio, and then decided to sit at the Cigar Palace and enjoy a fine cigar. And I was tired, and I'm watching the news, and Donald Trump's out there dancing at balls, and he's having a good time and speaking press conference at the Oval Office, kind of impromptu, and it was crazy. It was that guy keeps his schedule, and he didn't even seem tired. And I'm guessing that I would have been. My energy doesn't seem. Maybe he's going on adrenaline, but he was going late into the night, and I headed off to bed. So anyway, good morning. Great to see a couple of some of you, several of you yesterday. Came out of the Casbar Cigar. If you're listening outside of the state, we had we're in a deep freeze right now. I think it was -2 when I arrived there for the event yesterday morning. Some people I know of, Murray, I believe, Rob, they drove an hour and a half in bad roads to get down to the event, and they got there later than they wanted to. But it was a fun event. Jeff was there. Several others. I didn't get to meet all of you, but thank you for coming out. Those of you that risk life and limb to get out to the Casbar Cigar for our cigar celebration. Again, the roads were kind of. I slid through the final intersection getting into the cigar lounge yesterday where we did the event. But it was fun to see so many people, and a big celebration at the very end. If you stayed through the end, you probably might have seen. I don't think we put it on. Well, it was at the end of the show. The YMCA was playing, and people dancing, and the Trump cutout was dancing around. There was a little party breaking out, and there might have been some adult beverages served or taken. We didn't serve any beverages, but it was a good day. Good day. One of the things that I think is going to be the fallout of that day is going to be remembering and just realizing what a creep and a horrible individual Joe Biden has turned out to be. This last-minute pardon that went on of his family members, sneaking it in under the cover of darkness, making sure that nobody knew about it. It couldn't be discussed. It was really kind of a disgusting move by Joe Biden. And just when you think you could maybe dislike him less, maybe you think, okay, maybe we're just going to let him retire and just call him a demented old fool. You find out the guy's just corrupt. He is as corrupt as you ever imagined him to be, and he is a very, very corrupt person. So it was really disturbing and disgusting to see how he handled that. If you're going to pardon somebody, at least with Hunter Biden, he pardoned Hunter. You thought that was the most shocking of all of them, but he pardoned Hunter Biden, and you had a couple of months to talk about it, and he was a man enough to kind of take it on the chin. Well, he got that one out of the way, but he snuck in all of his siblings the last minute, even after they had left the White House. I'm sure he had left instructions that said, this is effective at this time. We will be on the road or even on the stage. But it's effective just before Donald Trump becomes the president. It was his last action, and if there's anything that will define the legacy of Joe Biden, I think that pardon flurry that he went on yesterday is true. Now, I want to tell you something about pardons, but first of all, let me play some video of this. This was CNN yesterday as they got the news that Joe Biden had pardoned, no, this is CBS, I believe, as they got the news that Joe Biden had pardoned his family and all the relatives and the J6 people. And this was Kevin McCarthy. I think he was on CBS. And this is what that sounded like. They also had a few questions about this, and then I'll play another one in just a moment. But even the liberal media was kind of in a shock yesterday because everything they accused and said that Donald J. Trump was going to one day do, which he never did, Joe Biden did. And this is what it looked like on CBS while you were watching maybe Fox News or Newsmax yesterday.
He just mentioned, and he's alluded to it 1,000 times, and it seems intent to do it, which is pardoning some of those who have been convicted in connection with January 6th. You were there on January 6th. You were quite disappointed in the president's actions.
They lead the question by saying Donald Trump's probably going to pardon the people on the January the 6th. You were there. What do you say? And that's where it continues. Go ahead.
That day. What do you think if he pardons some of these people?
The president has the power to do that. This is the difference.
No question about it. But
okay,
what do you think?
But this president told the American public why he was campaigning for office. If I am elected president, I will pardon these people.
Now, what do you think?
But compare this to Joe Biden, who said he would never pardon his son, who now, on the very last day, in the last 30 minutes, pardons his entire family.
What do you make of that decision for him to make those pardons and to do it now?
Terrible. Terrible. Think about what everybody else had gone through. Why pardon your family? What? It makes no sense to me. Why?
So there you have it. That's a little cut from CBS. It makes no sense, and so that's what they're going to say now. Donald Trump said yesterday that he is going to, in lieu of this, and learning that you pardoned all the people in the Justice Department and the J6 committee, and that they've destroyed evidence and they can't be prosecuted for that. These people can't appeal their cases. They don't have access to information that supposedly was used as evidence against him, and so they have set it up to where Donald Trump's going to pardon many in the next day or so, maybe even today, of the January the 6th people that were basically overly punished for things like trespassing and things like that. So they've set it up to where Joe Biden's last-minute pardons really give Donald Trump justification to follow through with his own pardon. But Kevin McCarthy is right. Everybody knew what Donald Trump thought of J6. Everybody knew what he thought of these protesters. Joe Biden lied up until the very last minute of office. And when he lied in the last minute of office, he snuck these under cover of darkness. At least Donald Trump had the courage to go out there and had the courage to go out there and to make his case and to state this in a campaign. And Joe Biden snuck out of D.C. Now I want to tell you some of these pardons. It's not as easy. And this was a discussion that got going a little bit on my Facebook page, facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page last night. There is a Supreme Court decision that is still standing, and it is still precedent that if you accept a pardon, you are basically admitting you have guilt. If you accept a pardon, you are saying there is some air of guilt about me. I'm guilty of things, and I accept the pardon. That is the nature of the Supreme Court ruling on pardons, and I'll tell you about that here in just a moment. Very important that you understand this. So anybody who accepts a pardon, Liz Cheney, by Supreme Court ruling in 1915, which is still precedent, she is actually admitting that she's a criminal, that she's actually admitting that she committed crimes and she's being pardoned from them. I'll get you the details of that in just a moment. But let me give you the CNN thing. Ready? This was CNN's coverage as they learned that Joe Biden had decided to pardon his family. They also not real happy with Joseph Rubilov Biden destroying any semblance of credibility as they've been defending him all this time. Go ahead.
Out, Anderson, there was another promise broken. That is exactly how he has ultimately decided to approach the justice system. And this is a decision that is going to raise so many alarming questions about the legal precedents that this now sets, and will have been really one of the very final acts for President Biden as a sitting president.
It's just unseemly. If you're going to do it, have the courage to do it in the light of day and explain it to the American people. It's a stain on his legacy to do it like this. We can have an argument about, is it necessary? Has Donald Trump promised retribution? Yes, he has. But if you're the president of the United States who said that the curse of Donald Trump was that he didn't respect democracy and didn't respect norms, have the courage to look the American people in the eye and explain what you're doing.
Yeah, the way it was done suggests that there was something wrong with doing it. Yeah. He tried to slip it in in the final minute. I know what he said, but the fact is that Trump has been saying this for a long time. That doesn't explain why in the last 10 minutes of your presidency you
in the spouses
slip
names
a
I've
release
never heard
out
come
there.
out of Donald
It
Trump.
just made the whole thing look tawdry.
It did. It was tawdry. It was a disgusting act by Joe Biden to let it forever be ensconced in his statue, wherever they're going to put that thing up, that he's a criminal president, and he pardoned a bunch of criminals. And there's no other way to define this except by an act that was called, it's Burdick versus U.S., Burdick versus the U.S., and it was a Supreme Court case in 1915, and it addressed the nature of presidential pardons. The case involved a guy named George Burdick. He was a newspaper editor who refused to testify before a grand jury investigating customs fraud. So he said, I'm not going to testify in front of the grand jury. I'm not going to tell you what I know. Well, the key aspects of the case is President Woodrow Wilson issued a pardon for Mr. Burdick and for any federal offenses that he may have committed related to the publication of an article about the alleged customs fraud. So Woodrow Wilson gives the guy a pardon, and Burdick refused to accept the pardon and continued to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So Woodrow Wilson says, your pardon, and Burdick says, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to accept your pardon. And here's why. The Supreme Court said in Burdick versus Burdick versus the U.S., a person can refuse to be the recipient of a pardon. You can refuse your pardon. Acceptance of the pardon is necessary for a pardon to be effective. And when you accept the pardon, you are basically accepting that you are guilty and that you should be pardoned for the crimes that you have committed. You are basically confessing. And because of that, you're now pardoned from the crimes that you have committed. And you can no longer, the Fifth Amendment right goes away. You either accept the pardon and admit you're a criminal and just merrily go along, or you say, I'm not guilty, and I'm going to invoke the Fifth Amendment or participate however I want to. It was a landmark case, and the case established that pardons cannot be forced upon individuals, and the right to refuse the pardon is protected because if refusing a pardon or accepting a pardon is a confession that you have some type of a guilt about you, and you are basically guilty. When you accept a pardon, by nature, the Supreme Court, the legal system of America, looks at accepting a pardon that you're saying, yes, I committed crimes. Thank you for the pardon, Mr. President. I'm sorry. I'm glad I'm not going to be punished for these crimes. And so if Liz Cheney or Dr. Fauci have accepted these pardons, and I have not heard of anybody says they've not accepted them, if anybody does not, if any of these do not decline pardons, Dr. Fauci is saying that he is a guilty man and he's guilty against crimes against humanity, lying before Congress. If Liz Cheney accepts the Congress because of Burdick versus the U.S. in 1915, that they're admitting guilt. And so I think there's something you need to understand about that it will be fair to know that Liz Cheney's career will be to know that she's a pardoned criminal. Dr. Fauci's career, his tombstone will say a pardoned criminal. If you accept a pardon, according to the Supreme Court, you are admitting that you are guilty and you are accepting the pardon. You don't need to invoke the Fifth. You don't need to cover anything up. You're accepting guilt upon your shoulders and you're declaring it, and you're being relieved of that guilt by the pardon. That is a constitution. That is a Supreme Court ruling from 1915, and it has never, ever, ever been overturned or changed. And so I think the question that the media should be asking is get a hold of Big Liz Cheney or little Dr. Fauci, the little effer, or any of the J6 Commission and say, do you accept your pardon? Because if you accept your pardon, you are now saying that you're a guilty person and you committed crimes. So is Liz Cheney willing to, I guess she is, I haven't heard that she's rejecting the pardon. Liz Cheney is admitting that she's a criminal. Dr. Fauci, if he accepts his pardon, he's admitting that he is a criminal. And there's no other way around it. It's Burdick versus the U.S. It's from 1915, and it is a landmark case that defines the stipulations around the pardon. So it is fair to say, I asked last night on the Facebook page, I said, hey, Facebook world, can we say that criminal Dr. Fauci? You can, because if he accepts a pardon, according to the Supreme Court, he is admitting that he is guilty of crimes committed, and he's been pardoned for his crimes. And so that's a very, if there's any, I guess, comfort to any of you, you do know that this was not about Donald Trump getting retribution. This is about they have committed crimes and they did not want to be punished for those crimes. They blame it on Donald Trump. He vowed retribution. Donald Trump cannot give you retribution. If you have not committed a crime, The Justice Department can make your life hell like they did for Donald Trump. They can use lawfare, warfare, things like that, but they cannot get you convicted. The truth comes out in our justice system to this day, as it did for Donald J. Trump. So remember the phrase Burdick versus the U.S. We'll talk more about it. It's a very interesting case. And if Liz Cheney, Nancy Pelosi, any of these people have decided to accept their pardons, then they are admitting, according to the Supreme Court, that they did commit crimes. And then we just have to do the investigation. They can't plead the fifth anymore. And then we need to find out what crimes they committed. And they're not any legal danger if they committed crimes, already pardoned for them, but they do have to testify. And if they refuse to testify and they invoke the fifth anymore, that's a whole different case, and that's contempt of court, and they can go to jail for that. So hold on to your hats, kids. It's going to get real interesting should the Trump Justice Department want to continue. And I'm sure the U.S. Senate, I'm sure Rand Paul would love to have another swipe at the apple when it comes to Dr. Fauci, the little effer, the criminal Dr. Fauci. The criminal Dr. Fauci. You know, I've got friends that back when Fauci was going out with Mike Pence every day and doing these little hearings every day, these coronavirus, COVID-19 updates. Friends that were said, Jimmy, I said, I don't like the little effer. The little effers are criminal. I guarantee you he's a crooked little man. And I've got friends that are saying, oh, I like him. He's a little, no, he's a criminal. Really, honest to goodness, if he accepts the pardon, by definition, he is a criminal. And some of us thought he was a criminal early on. So give me your thoughts on this whole thing, that pardons. And again, Burdick versus the U.S. 1915, Burdick, B-U-R-D-I-C-K, versus U.S. 1915. That is a Supreme Court ruling. The Rogers got a point. Both Kinzinger and Schiff said they did not want to pardon because that would have an interpretation of guilt. They may not want to pardon. Are they rejecting the pardon? That's the key. I mean, you can say you don't want to pardon. Oh, I don't want to pardon. But hey, I got one. Okay, yeah, that's good. I think Hunter Biden for a while was like, I don't need a pardon for my dad. I'm an innocent man. He gets the pardon. So there's a lot of folks that say they don't want pardons, but I'm telling you, if they've been thrust upon you, this is people need to get a hold of Adam Kissinger, Adam Schiff today, all these jackwagons, and ask, do you accept your pardon? Because that means there's an inference that you have committed a crime, you're admitting you're a criminal, and you're accepting the pardon from the president, the power of the pardon. Investigations must continue for those that to find out what has happened. Was there treason, murder, bribery, public corruption, espionage, sexual offenses, including with minors, tax crimes? What damage has been done to the United States and to individuals? Jim brings up an excellent point. The investigations will continue, and now those who have accepted their pardons can no longer plead the fifth. And if they've accepted their pardons, they must testify or be held in contempt, whether it's Congress or court or whatever it is. They've got to testify, and there's no more Fifth Amendment protection for them. So the investigations will continue. I have a darn good feeling they will continue. All right, give me your thoughts on that. All the platforms out there, we'd love to hear from each of you on every one of the platforms, whether you're, oh, by the way, the YouTube yesterday, we got pulled off the YouTube midstream. They said there's something that we were being naughty, and then all of a sudden we tried to figure it out, and the naughtiness was gone. They just pulled us down. I guess they just didn't like us covering the inauguration. We looked to see in our account if we had some violation or warning note or some letter from the tube of the U, and the answer was no. Suddenly, we were just persona non grata on the YouTube. So if you're listening or watching this on YouTube this morning, say hello to us. We'd love to see your comments and to see. Some people probably our numbers continue to go up yesterday in the backroom count. We have a little audit office. We can see what's happening on all the platforms, and just because you may be on something that says 1, that doesn't mean that's accurate. Maybe you see something that says 200. Maybe that's not accurate either. There's the algorithms of the social media are very interesting, but we did notice once we got pulled unceremoniously for YouTube, still don't really know why. We're back up on YouTube. We did nothing. We're back up. The show is back on YouTube. You can watch the entire thing in its entirety. But if you're on YouTube this morning, say Heidi Ho. And if you are on YouTube, because they seem to be kind of led by idiots there, or bots or somebody over there streaming, you might want to have a backup just in case YouTube goes down. You might want to have a backup of something else or another platform you can watch this thing on. All right, I got a question, something not related to the transition, not related to the inauguration, not related to anything out there at all, except a question. It was -2 degrees yesterday when I pulled into this Casbar Cigar Lounge. My son posted a photo. He's out working out with his football team about 6:30 this morning. I think it was 1 degree or -1 when they were outside going to do some outside running, exercising, and physical fitness, if you will. I guess they're going outside. Maybe they're walking over to the they walk in their football stadium. I can see that from the photo he posted. And I had this discussion with my son last winter, and I had it yesterday with a couple of people. What's the right temperature to keep your house, your thermostat at in the wintertime? I've got people that think I am nuts. If you go to the house of to the Lakey estate, the house of Lakey today, and you went over and looked at the thermostat on the main level there, you'll see a thermostat there, and it's set. Usually, it's between 60 and 62 during the winter. Am I an anomaly? I don't think I am. And I go to some people's houses, and I'm like, I can't breathe in your house. I'm sorry, it's hotter than hell. Maybe it's because I'm a single man and I don't have anybody nagging saying I'm cold. No, I like meat locker temperatures in my home. I used to tell my friend Corey Clinton at 1 Hour Heating and Air, who does all my service work for me. I used to tell him, hey, I want a setting on my air conditioning called meat locker. And I don't keep it at 62 in the summertime, except maybe at nighttime when I go to bed. Then I may turn it the thermostat's way down. What's the problem? This is our question of the day, because I think there needs to be some adjudication here. My son found out when he joined a football team on the university campus. Of course, you have roommates, and then you have a suite mate, and you have these people. Well, nobody can agree on what the right temperatures are. My son grew up in a home in which we were obviously in Colorado, and he grew up in a home in which we kept it very cool. So he's used to sleeping very cool at night. His first roommate, his first semester, was a kid who grew up in, I believe, the Nashville area, the Tennessee area. And if it got to like 50 degrees, the guy's got a sweater on. He's got 60 degrees, the guy's cold. I mean, he's used to hot and humid. And so when winter time came, he was freezing his tail off, and my son is sweating, and they're having to have discussions about, okay, this is crazy. So what's the right temperature to keep your house on? What do you keep your temperature, your thermostat set at your house? That is our question of the day. And is anybody else, what's the perfect temperature to keep your house at? And is anybody out there like me? Does anybody keep it between lower than me? I'm at 62, I think, is what it was last night when I went to bed. Lisa says I keep it between 62 and 65 in the winter. That's right. Lisa's right. It has nothing to do with Jimmy Carter saying put on a sweater. I like it cool. You sleep better. And dear goodness, I have been known to at times put it down to about 58, 59. Because you get some sunshine, and it's just I don't. People that have their thermostat above 70 in the wintertime, I don't know how you breathe. I honest to goodness don't know how you breathe. So anyway, tell me the proper temperature. Jimmy Carter said about 60, 65 back in the energy crisis of the 70s, and you're supposed to like 75 and 80 in the winter. And to that, I said to his summertime, to Jimmy Carter's summertime temperatures, I say, hell no. But yeah, Lisa's right. Lisa's right, because she keeps it very low. Anybody keep it who keeps your temperature above 70? My friend, my son's roommate, his first semester wanted to be like 75, 77 degrees. And my son's like, I can't even breathe at that level in the wintertime. It's not even healthy. Okay, just throw it out there. If anybody else if anybody else is out there that keeps your house meat locker even in the winter, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And just again, that's our question of the day. Has nothing to do with politics or January the 6th or the pardons of Joe Biden. It's just simply a simple question. What do you keep your thermostat at during the old winter? One thing that happened yesterday, that's very interesting, that and Michael Letts was on the show talking about the pardon of General Milley. Literally right as soon. I mean, now you got to figure where this came from. Because Pete Hegseth has not been confirmed as a Department of Defense. Joe Biden's a commander in chief. So there's bureaucrats or there's guys kind of running the thing, but you don't have a real head of the Department of Defense right now. Hegseth has not been finally confirmed, and Donald Trump was riding around doing dancing and things like that. So, Ann says this, and Peterson says, sleep 66, otherwise 68 is quite nice. I think I would sweat. If my 66, I maybe can handle. I mean, it depends on the room, depends on the airflow in a room, but 68, that's I'm weird. That seems warm to me. Does that seem warm to anybody else? Delilah's over there saying that's not warm. Delilah says my house is really cold. Well, it is cold. I like it that way. But 68 says I mean, 68's it's not as bad as it could be. I mean, it's not like you're an atheist or something running it at 72 or 73. That shows you don't love God or country if you have it that hot in the winter. It's just, I can't come visit you. It's like, anybody go to your grandparents' house when you were a kid and you walked in, you're like, I can't breathe. It's hot. And they're still all bundled up in sweaters and Afghans and stuff. And you're like, I can't breathe. I'm dying. Well, Jeff says 69 with the fan on. Now, if you have airflow circulation, that does matter if you have a fan on. But at 69, that's getting very hot. That's very hot. Delilah, just because I said 69 doesn't mean you have to freak out over there, okay? Knock it off. You're like kids in a candy store. The hipster youth over there causing problems, and they're making jokes about 69. All right. You guys are about as mature as they come, aren't you? Yeah, you're very mature. All right, so that's your question of the day. Okay, back to the Department of Defense. I found this to be very, very interesting yesterday. The story was that General Milley, about 3 weeks ago, at the Pentagon or somewhere, they had put up a portrait of him, an oil painting, as the big kahuna that he had been. And General Milley's photo had gone up there. And yesterday, somewhere between Joe Biden leaving the White House and Donald Trump taking the oath of office and heading off to ceremonies and stuff, General Milley's portrait that had just been dedicated and inaugurated like 3 weeks ago was unceremoniously removed from all the walls of the Pentagon. Now, that's very interesting here because Milley is one of those people that got pardoned. And if you recall what Milley gets pardoned for is that he told the communist Chinese towards the end of Trump's term, hey, if Donald Trump decides to take any action against you, don't worry, I'll let you know. The guy committed treason. And he was given a pardon, and we talked about yesterday that a pardon does not handle a military tribunal. And Michael Lett says that's what he expects is actually going to happen to General Milley is he's going to face a military tribunal. He'll be reactivated as an active member and called in before a military tribunal to explain his treasonous acts in colluding and cooperating behind the back of the commander-in-chief who he serves and with the communist Chinese. But it's interesting, and you say, well, that sounds crazy. Is there really going to try General Milley for a military tribunal? Well, the pardon doesn't cover that for Milley. But I just find it interesting and all full of all sorts of interesting conversation is that Milley's photo was removed from the Pentagon yesterday, his portrait, and they just had a big ceremony. They had the blanket over it, and they unveiled it, and everybody goes, oh, what a beautiful portrait. They pulled it down, and I'd like to know who gave the order to pull it down. Was that... Who's running? I don't know who's running the day-to-day. I'm sure there's a general somewhere, but they decided yesterday to pull down General Milley's. Donald Trump never mentioned it. I didn't hear Pete Hegseth talk about it. Pete Hegseth has not even been confirmed, but General Milley's portrait was removed yesterday, shortly after that pardon was extended to him by Joe Biden. They took down his portrait. So how do you read into that? What are the tea leaves? I don't really know, but I do know that there's I do know that it's not a good look for Milley, and that's going to be the very interesting part. Now, my friend Wayne Allen Root out in Vegas, he's coming back from the inauguration today. He said he's about to write a piece, and he says now it's up to the states, and every state needs to start filing charges against Dr. Fauci. He said every state needs to look at Dr. Fauci and start talking with how they can charge Dr. Fauci because he's now admitted he committed a crime, right? If he accepts a pardon, by verdict versus the U.S. in 1950, Fauci's admitting he has committed a crime. And if he's admitting that he's a criminal, then the states need to find out are there state charges, not just federal charge. He's been pardoned from federal charges. And if he according to verdict versus U.S. 1915, taking a pardon, accepting a pardon comes with an acknowledgement that you are guilty of a crime. Thus, that is why you have been pardoned for that, even if you haven't been charged. Now, let me give you. People say that there's no precedent for this. Well, there is actually. Richard Nixon gave a pardon to Gerald Ford in 1975 for any crimes that he might have been committed during the Watergate scandal. And so Gerald Ford accepted the pardon. Gerald Ford had accepted the pardon. Therefore, Gerald Ford says, yes, we probably did some naughty things somehow, whether it's on purpose or accidental. I accept your pardon. That's an admission of guilt. And that's according to pardon impacted Ford's approval ratings, may have contributed to his loss in the 76 election. But Nixon did pardon excuse me, Ford pardoned Nixon, if it makes sense, but that affected Ford's popularity because he pardoned Nixon. So Nixon accepted the pardon. I was mixing my names up. Nixon accepted the pardon, and according to Burdick versus U.S. 1915, then that is Nixon accepting that responsibility and some acknowledgement of guilt. There was also another pardon that you may not know of, controversial as it may be. Back in the Iran-Contra days, it was President George H.W. Bush pardoned several Reagan administration officials that were involved in Iran-Contra. He pardoned Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger. That was widely criticized, and these pardons were seen as potentially obstructing the pardons were seen to be obstructing justice and hindering efforts to get the full extent of the illegal activities. But they were trying to go after Caspar Weinberger and stuff, and they got pardoned. There was another one. Oh, Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter gave 200,000 pardons to people I guess early on in his administration. He pardoned anybody who had dodged the draft in Vietnam. All of those people. I see that, Jack. I corrected myself. I had two names there on my sheet, and I'm just glancing out the corner of my eye. So yes, you're right. Ford pardoned Nixon. I corrected myself. Settle down there, Jack, and don't get too upset with yourself. All right. So Jimmy Carter actually pardoned people. He pardoned over 200,000 Vietnam draft dodgers, and there had been no charges brought against him. So it is possible to do that. But again, you need to go Burdick versus, and if you're a draft dodger and weren't charged, you accepted that pardon and you admitted that you dodged the draft, broke the law, and President Carter, he freed you and pardoned you. It's a very interesting case. And again, Dr. Fauci, if he accepts that pardon, he's committed some kind of crime, and he's admitting that. Liz Cheney has done the same thing. Caspar Weinberger, Chelsea Manning. Anybody remember Chelsea Manning? President Obama gave a commutation of Chelsea Manning's sentence, and it was controversial due to the nature of the crime. So that wasn't a pardoned. Who else got pardoned? Mark Rich. Bill Clinton pardoned Mark Rich back. He was a fugitive financier on his last day in office in 2001, and that was very controversial. But Mark Rich's legal status and his ex-wife had made big donations to the Democrat Party, and so he pardoned him. That's controversial. That's not preemptive, but there have been times in which, without a charge being filed, there were pardons that were given, and Ford pardoning Nixon was one of those. Jimmy Carter pardoning draft dodgers. Interesting case. But again, if somebody got to check with Kissinger and they got to check with Schiff, they said they don't want to pardon. Do they not accept these? That's going to be a big kicker here. All right, let me bring into the conversation Miss Laura Carno. Laura Carno Tuesday. It's always good to have Laura with us. She was we invited her yesterday to pop on to the scene and be a part, but she is a very busy lady. She graces us with her presence this morning. Miss Laura Carno Tuesday, welcome in. Happy post-inauguration day.
And I have to tell you, I was very annoyed that I was busy yesterday because all I wanted to do was watch all of the festivities of, who was leaving the Blair House when and who was arriving and what people were wearing and all that kind of stuff. I was very annoyed that I missed a lot yesterday, but I caught up. I recorded a bunch of stuff and caught up.
It was fun. Of all the things that you watched, a matter of fact, I think, producer Chad, we have a photo of Melania Trump. I am no fashion guy, but I thought she looked very elegant, very stately, Melania Trump there. But some of the captions are, it looks like some people said look kind of mafioso. Some people said look like, I think this headline here says, this is a woman that says, when your husband's about to destroy the people who raided your home, that's what you wear. And you just, I thought it was a great look, but it's amazing how many people are saying, that's a woman who says, yeah, we're in charge here. And you raided my bedroom and we're not happy.
Yeah. They went through her under things. And, I don't know how I would forgive people who did that. But yeah, I think the fashion statement that she made for the official goings on, she obviously changed for the balls and stuff like that. But she meant business. And, it was sort of she's a fashion icon. She was a fashion model. That was her job. And for the first Trump administration, the fashion magazines completely ignored her while putting Michelle Obama and Kamala Harris and AOC and various Democrats on the covers of all of these fashion magazines. They completely ignored her. And so I feel like it was a little bit of a, yes, we mean business, also a little bit of a middle finger to the fashion world, a world I am not a part of, as evidenced by my Cabela's sweatshirt this morning. But sort of a middle finger to the fashion world, saying, yes, you have not seen an outfit like this. Yes, I'm doing this. Yes, we mean business. We're back. So it's been very interesting to see the differences between 8 years ago and today.
Even the inauguration photos, we talked about this on the program, I think, as late last week. I talked about it with my viewers here. The first Donald Trump inauguration photo, he has his arms crossed and he's smiling. And then the real serious is kind of a better lighting version of the mugshot that they took down in Georgia. Just a symbol of him looking like, I know what you did to me. I know what has happened. And this is a comeback and I'm coming back. And the serious tone between the inauguration photo and that outfit, it shows, hey, we're here and we're in charge. It's what it shows.
Right. And the other thing that showed we're here and we're in charge is in the first administration, and Trump has talked a lot about this, he didn't know what he didn't know. And, he was a man of New York, not of DC. And when people said, hey, this is a good guy, he hired him. And now he knows what he didn't know. And so the whole time period leading up to his inauguration, certainly at least between Election Day and inauguration, if not before Election Day, when they had a sense that he was going to win, they have been planning. So, I mean, literally, some of the video that your viewers may have seen is at the rally in the afternoon yesterday. He started signing executive orders and then went back to the White House and signed executive orders because they were ready. They have the policies that the Trump administration ran on and is going to implement. And it was no BS, no nonsense. They knew what they were doing. It's a new day is sort of how it felt.
It was, you kind of look, and I know all of us suffered through the last 4 years, inflation, the incompetence, on the brink of World War III. And yet this Trump second term, I think, probably has the possibility of being so impactful, maybe one of the most impactful 4 years of our lifetime, because whether you view that as 4 years of an illegal occupation of the White House or 4 years of Donald Trump getting put in timeout because whatever, these 4 years, as painful as it might have been for the Trump and Trump fans, have probably made him stronger and much more effective and have left the Democrats in total disarray here. So it hurt while it hurt while it in the beginning, but it's probably maybe been the best thing for our nation.
Yeah, I think so. And, I look at the attendance at the inauguration of Argentine President Javier Milei. And I've talked to a few friends about this who maybe half think I'm crazy, half think I've got something here. So I'll say it to the Jimmy Lakey audience. Javier
we know
Milei,
you're crazy. If you're on this show, you got to be crazy.
You've done this. I think 9 or 10 years we've been together doing this. So, but Javier Milei is the libertarian president of Argentina who ran on a crazy slate of getting government out of people's lives and has done just that. And in a year, the economy has come back, freedoms have come back. I mean, everything is roaring in Argentina. So President Trump likes to win. We know that. And I think he wants to make sure that the United States wins better than Milei's Argentina. And I'm here for it. I'm here for all of the winning. And so I think something like that, where libertarian principles, very, very small government principles, have demonstrated in a short period of time how beneficial that can be. I hope it pulls Trump a little bit more into that libertarian position in reducing government spending, because that was not his forte last time.
No.
And further reducing revenues to the government in the way of taxes. I'm not with him on tariffs. I put every Valentine's Day I do a tweet. Roses are red, violets are blue, taxation is theft, and tariffs are too. So I'm not with him on tariffs, and if he's using them for a negotiation point, fine. But I think that we, the consumers, pay for tariffs. So I think this Milei connection is going to be very interesting to see if Trump learns something from him.
It's going to be an interesting couple of years. Well, I think also becoming interesting, as Trump alluded yesterday, and we kind of thought it would happen, these January the 6th hostages, he calls them. He's about to, a lot of them are about to get a pardon and commutations and get out of jail, because some of them are being held for trespassing for 5 or 6 years. Some of them still haven't even seen a judge yet. They haven't even trialed a solitary confinement. So we kind of knew that was coming, but it looks like he paved the way by pardoning the January the 6th Commission, Liz Cheney, those folks. If they accept the pardon, as I said, with Burdick versus the U.S., they're admitting that they have committed a crime. And a part of the crime is a lot of these, I guess, plaintiffs that are being prosecuted, evidence has been destroyed. The J6 committee has destroyed evidence. It could have exonerated or lessened their sentence. It's a whole cluster mess. Let's talk about these last-minute pardons by Joseph. I know you sent me his Robinette Biden. I like to call him Rubalad Biden. I don't know why. It sounds more Cajun, like a Cajun sauce or something.
Yeah, it sounded like a soup or stew of some sort.
That's why that's like a Rubalad.
Okay.
Yes, it's Robinette, Joseph Robinette Biden, Rubalad Biden.
Okay.
I make nicknames for everybody. Everybody got a nickname. I won't tell you what yours is.
I think it's Carno. I thought my nickname was Carno Tuesday.
That is hashtag Carno Tuesday.
Yes, I run into Jimmy Lakey fans occasionally, and they introduce themselves and they say, "Oh, you're Carno Tuesday." So
you're Carno Tuesday. Carno Tuesday. Yeah.
Yes, there we go. So yeah, I mean, I think that the American public doesn't have any sense of trust in what the federal government did from a lawfare standpoint. The people who firebombed the church next to the White House in the days before January 6th, nothing happened to them, but the full force of the federal government went after. Certainly there were people who committed some violence on January 6th, but some of them were the MAGA Mimas who were wandering around and, peacefully entering through the velvet ropes that did nothing. So I think that the American people just don't have a sense of fairness in that. You were talking about previous presidents that did pardons. I think that George Washington pardoned people who were involved in the Whiskey Rebellion. And so there's sort of a sense of, the quote unquote war is behind us. Let's put all of this behind us and move on. And it feels like there's a sense of that, but I dare any, CNN or MSNBC or any commentator in those worlds to criticize the January 6th pardons and commutations and remain silent on the 11th hour pardons of Joe Biden's family, where he's obviously just trying to keep his personal family out of prison. But I saw one of your viewers said something similar in comments, and I completely agree. We still need to have the investigations, because there needs to be a reckoning on what happened with the Biden family. There needs to be a reckoning on what happened during COVID, because we need to learn as an American population, these things can't happen again. Especially what happened with COVID. There will be another pandemic, and we can't go back and do the same things we did last time.
Were you familiar with the Burdick versus U.S. case in 1915? that the U.S. Supreme Court says if you accept a pardon, you are in turn admitting you have been guilty. Therefore, your Fifth Amendment right to invoke silence and self-incrimination goes away because you're admitting you've done something, but you don't need to protect yourself anymore. You're going to have to cooperate. That Burdick case is very interesting because I'm sure they would like to say, we're just pardoning them because Donald Trump's a mean guy. Supreme Court says if you accept a pardon, you're admitting that you're affiliated with some guilt of crimes committed.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. I'm not an attorney, but that's my understanding as well. And I think the biggest practical part of that is that they can't plead the Fifth. So, who doesn't want Anthony Fauci in front of a government oversight, perchance, committee, not being able to plead the Fifth and being forced? Maybe he'll just say he doesn't recall. But that information needs to come out. And that's why it's just so criminal that the January 6th committee lost or deleted or erased or whatever, all of that, the evidence, because it is really critical to get in there and say, what the heck happened? Because we need to learn from it.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard the audio. I'll play it again later in the show. The CNN, the CBS panel, all these people are going, oh, he probably shouldn't have done this. I have a tweet here. It's from Mark Penn, who's a Democrat operative, been very active with Obama. Mark Penn, here's what he tweeted last night. He said, last-minute pardons by Biden's political accomplices were the plan all along. The pardons for drug dealers and commutations for murderers were just cover for the main act of these pardons and his son, all done after the elections had passed. The only administration to try to jail political opponents was not Donald Trump, but it was Joseph Biden's. And it was the voters who rejected it with their votes. This is Mark Penn saying, hey, Biden tried to jail his political opponent. Mark Penn says there were legitimate questions on whether Dr. Fauci lied about his funding of gain-of-function research, whether Milley broke the chain of command and had unauthorized communications with the Chinese, and whether the January the 6th committee coached its witnesses. They may have all been right and truthful, but there were questions, and they will go unresolved now. But Biden was elected lying to the public about his son's business, which was eventually uncovered, sought to win re-election by hiding his own infirmities, which was also eventually uncovered, and genuinely abused his office in the closing days of his presidency as his low ratings sink to even lower. That's Mark Penn saying Biden tried to deceive us about his son. That got uncovered. Tried to deceive us about his health. That got uncovered. And he tried to deceive us by pardoning all these other people. At the main event, he just wanted to pardon his family and get them out of trouble.
Yeah. And I think what you're seeing in this, and Mark Penn's not alone in Democrat pundits saying that, is that the Biden administration has gone so far that even the Democrat pundits can't defend their final actions. And I think the timing, and maybe tell me if you've heard something different, that the timing was just a few minutes before noon Eastern, which is when Trump was sworn in. So literally the last possible moment, and Trump couldn't have known about it before he started his speech. And I think it might have been a little different speech if he had known about it. But it's just as low of approval ratings that Biden had, I think he will go down in history with even lower approval ratings as over the next 4 years, a lot more stuff comes out about how corrupt the administration was.
Even the pardon that came out yesterday with his family at the last minute, he did know about the J6 committee, and he said last night in some interviews of press conference, he said he wanted to actually bring up the J6 committee and some of that other stuff that he did know about, but his chief of staff and Vice President Vance all said, let's keep it, let's not do that, and he took it out. He wanted to have a paragraph in that, but I think if he would have known about the family, that just leaked while he was up on the stage, and just after he had stepped off the stage, he might have rebuffed the staff, and that would have been very interesting. But the family pardon that came out, if you saw it, it started January the 1st, 2014, through the day of the pardon, which was yesterday. Well, what's interesting is 2014, that would have been the second term of Barry Obama. That would have been about the time that Joe Biden's realizing he's about to start losing power and influence of the lame duck presidency, second term. There's a very specific date. That's when all the allegations about Hunter Biden starting to travel with his father. Hunter Biden's laptop says he was calling his dad the big guy and having to give half his money to the big guy. It's a very specific date. All the family, it's from the second half of the second term through the current date. And that really lines up with the allegations of when the criminal enterprise began for the Bidens.
Right. Yeah. His son was picking up sacks of cash all around the world for the benefit of the Biden family. And, sometimes pardons are to preserve the legacy of a family so that they're not dragged through the mud. But I don't think that it's possible to save the legacy of the Biden family anymore. I think that it is literally to keep them out of prison. And nothing more, because I think stuff's going to come out, Jimmy. There are going to be, like Mark Penn and others who are like, look, this is just terrible. There are going to be other Democrats who have seen things that, maybe from a sense of personal preservation or preservation of their own brand, are going to have to come out and say things. So there's going to be more to come out. And I just can't wait for the next 4 years.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. Joe Biden probably, had he not been involved with this criminal enterprise, obviously the date the family got involved was January 1st, 2014, by the dates of the pardon. Had Joe Biden not been a part of that criminal enterprise and allowed his son and himself to abuse office, the powers that they had and the influence they have, and all be compromised like they were, Joe Biden might have been able to ride off into the distance and just kind of go off into the sunset as a demented old guy, and he stumbles and bumbles, but God bless him, he's still America's grandpa. There's no way that this is a tarnish in the history. It'll be an asterisk in the history book. And I think a lot of times history judges a president nicer, it gets kinder, but I don't think it necessarily will with Joe Biden. I mean, Jimmy Carter, everybody knows he had disastrous policy, but he was a good person outside the White House, and everybody talked about that. Joe Biden, by these pardons, shows that he's not a good guy in the White House policies, and he's a really nasty, dirty, criminalized man. I mean, there's no other way to interpret it.
Yeah, I thought the same thing with the Carter funeral being not too far behind us, that there is that halo effect around, especially in the media, around former Democrat presidents when they pass. There wasn't so much that love in the Democrat media for Ronald Reagan when he passed. But I think that history is going to judge Biden more harshly, not only because of all of the bad things that he did, but just how bad he was for Democrat politics.
Yeah.
For as bad as the left says that Trump was, and how hard they went after him with various lawfare and all this kind of stuff, he really helped to ruin things. I mean, he said that he was going to be a transitional president and somebody else could take over. No, he insisted on running. They had to run him out on a rail. They had whatever that tweet was that said he's getting out, that I'm convinced he had nothing to do with, and really set things up for Kamala Harris was the only person who could do it. They couldn't boot her out in favor of a guy, for goodness sakes. So, and she was really the worst presidential candidate that, in modern times. So I think he's going to take it on the chin also for ruining things for Democrats, I think, for a long time, because you look at how much what the percentages were for Trump with Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, young people, for goodness sakes. Thank you, Barron Trump, for getting him on all of those podcasts. I think that really helped. So I think it's going to be a long time that Democrats are going to be in the wilderness for a little bit, and Joe Biden will take it on the chin for that.
I thought this was a Babylon Bee headline. It says, elderly dementia patient cruelly evicted from his home. You don't subscribe to the Babylon Bee. You need to get the Babylon Bee. Real quick, watching the inauguration real quick before we wrap up. I was watching, obviously, Trump got a few standing ovations. His side was very excited. Joe Biden did manage to stand up and applaud for about the hostages being released. Did you watch Kamala Harris up there? I mean, she had her arms crossed, she was all closed off. And at one point, I think it was during America the Beautiful, it looked like she was almost emotional. I don't like the lady. I think she was a horrible candidate, and I don't think she's a good person either. My opinion. I've never met her, but you wonder what's going through their mind at this point. This guy's up there speaking. He just kicked your ass at the ballot box, and he's basically saying this has been horrible, and we're going to right the ship right now, and you guys are the problem. What do you think's going through their head, like Kamala's head?
Yeah, not a big fan of Kamala Harris, so I have a little bit of Schadenfreude with this. I felt like she couldn't muster even a neutral facial expression. She had that scowl for a good portion of the time. I think what she was thinking is, this should have been me. I should have been up there, and it's this guy's fault next to her that I'm not the president. And when you watched the Clintons came in walking past, these are some of the things that I recorded it because I wanted to watch some of these little moments. But the Clintons came in, actually Hillary Clinton came in and walked past Jill Biden, and they just couldn't even look at each other. There were some interesting moments like that. I think between the Obamas, the Clintons, Bidens, Harris, there's no love lost between various factions in the Democrat Party at those higher echelons. And I think you really saw that, but boy, did Kamala Harris look just ticked off that wasn't her. And I think there was a box of wine waiting for her when she got back to wherever she was going after the festivities.
Well, the Jill Biden hates Kamala because she said that Joe was a racist and segregated schools. Yes. So there was no love lost, but he got stuck with Kamala. So they're cold to each other. The Clintons hate the Obamas because Hillary wanted to run, and then Barry Obama came from out of nowhere and ran, and that was her time to run. I mean, it is a cluster mess around there. And then whenever speculation was Barack wanted, after Joe dropped out, wanted Michelle to maybe elevate or choose. And then it was the Bidens and the Clintons said, no, we don't like the Obamas. So it was a cluster mess. And all these people think that the Democrats are a party of the people. No, you're run by these party elites, the Bidens, the Clintons, the Pelosi's. And a lot of you Democrats out there just get led around by the nose because you're weak and intellectually bankrupt people. That's my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. You wonder what the cocktail party seating arrangements are, and who's inviting who to what, and who's on whose Christmas card list. And because it as much as they attempt to come across as people who are all kumbaya, it is nothing of the sort. And the American people, even people not like us, Jimmy, who pay lots of attention and record such things just to watch those interactions, I think the average Joe out there can feel that iciness, and it doesn't bode well for how they feel about the Democrat Party.
Go back and watch, and next time I report back. I think Jill Biden she had a chain. I thought it was a part of her dress, but I think it was her purse, and she was her purse. And we talked about it yesterday in the live show. What the hell she got in that purse? She's clutching that as if, and I thought maybe on the way out she said, "Crap, Hunter left more cocaine," and she's putting the cocaine in there. She was holding that purse as if it had the nuclear secrets or something. And then somebody said maybe they were good behavior treats for Joe Biden or some ice cream for him. She was clutching that purse right next to her. And I said, "Wow."
It could have been a shiv for just in case.
Just in case.
Just in case somebody got too close to her she didn't like.
I've been walking out of the residency going, oh, shoot, Hunter left some cocaine over there, too. I don't know what they're doing. But Laura Carno, it has been a pleasure. We'll get back and talk some more Colorado and state politics here real soon. But enjoy watching the next couple of days. It's going to be interesting.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be fast and furious.
You get Laura Carno. Her organization is called fastercolorado.org, fastercolorado.org, fastercolorado.org. Go check it out. Throw a donation their way. They help take care of the kids and keep kids protected in the public schools in Colorado. And you should absolutely, positively go support them throughout the course of the year. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put up a piece on my Twitter feed. I'll tweet it out there. My friend Liz Peek, with Fox Business News. She has a great piece, and I think it's true. Liz Peek, Donald Trump is our president, and Democrats have no idea what to do. I'll put this out there. If you don't follow me, Facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. Also, the Twitter feed is just my name, and the Rumble feed is just my name as well. And the X feed, all those feeds. Just look for my name. Facebook is the only one that's long. It's facebook.com/Jimmy Lakey fan page. All right, let's go to the stolen meme section of the show. We went a little long there with Laura Carno. And the stolen meme section of the show, we try to get some humor in here. Let's see, the Ohio State won the national championship last night. I was so tired I didn't even watch it. But yeah, congratulations to Ohio State. Now, a lot of us across America, I think, at least all my friends, we were cheering that the Kansas City Chiefs would lose on last past Sunday, the playoffs. We don't want the three-peat. Patrick Mahomes, his politics are right, but you kind of get tired of the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Well, I had this meme here. Anybody remember when Mahomes played Darlene on the show Roseanne? Canny resemblance, right? You didn't know that. He was a childhood actor, became a football player. I'm probably going to get fined by the NFL for picking on Patrick Mahomes, because God knows if you touch Patrick Mahomes, you're going to get in trouble. All right, this was not covered by cameras. I had to see it after the fact yesterday. That we talk about the fashion icon of Melania Trump and all the power red ties, and Donald Trump didn't have a red tie, and all the sharp dresses and the hats and all the pomp and circumstance. This is no joke. There's Senator Fetterman at the inauguration. He had on his hoodies. And there's a stage, and he's got on his short pants. And I guess nobody told him it was very, very, very cold outside. You know, we used to pick, and I don't like that. I think you have some decorum and dress up. But Fetterman on a policy issues actually turned out to be kind of a moderate. I think producer Chad said he may be the new Joe Manchin out there. Maybe, but that's a real photo of Senator Fetterman at the inauguration yesterday. He wasn't dressing up for nobody. Has anybody sat down and asked him in an interview, why is it that you're so hell-bent on the shorts and the hoodies? Why is it? I don't know what because he went down. Remember, he went down with his family, met with Mar-a-Lago with President Trump. And I get it. I bet at Mar-a-Lago there's a dress code, and I've never been invited. But I'm guessing. So did he dress up to Mar-a-Lago and not for the inauguration? I don't know. All right. President Trump saved TikTok. We're hearing that he's saving TikTok. There's going to be a new deal on that. But this is something that maybe your computer should be doing. It should be uninstalling Biden. Uninstall Biden. This is what we need to be happening on computers. We hit the uninstall button yesterday, drag it to the trash can, and uninstall. It says uninstall Trump on the show sheet, but it says uninstall Biden. All right, here's another one. I don't think we have that one. How about the Biden with the ice cream? Do we have that one? Biden with the ice cream, the $600 for various and sundry people. Oh, the meme machine might have broken. Did our meme machine break? Our meme machine might have broken. Did our meme machine? I think it broke. The meme machine died. There it is. Okay, we got this meme machine. The meme machine is back. Vivek and Elon asked Trump if they can make a blanket for it in the Lincoln bedroom. And you see the Babylon Bee says, President Trump says, if you clean up the government like I asked, you can make a fort. What room in the residential would you want to go see? The Lincoln bedroom is actually in the residential suite of there. So, all right, let's see what other the meme machine can create there. If you have any, the meme machine. Oh, nothing says trust the science quite like a blanket preemptive pardon. This is true. Nothing says trust the science like a blanket pardon. Speaking of blankets, we have a couple more, I think. Let the meme machine auto-create here. Spin the wheel, and what do we get? Oh, somebody. I'm just going to let this one sit here. Everybody just look at it. I have no comment. I have no commentary. I have nothing to say. I'd just like you to see Michelle Obama and Justin Trudeau. I have nothing to say here. I just want you to see it and enjoy the photo that we share with you in the stolen meme section of the show. That's all I do. That's all I do. Stolen meme section of the show. All right, final few moments here together. We went 3 hours yesterday, so we'll try to get out on time of classroom today. Glad to have you. I had a question of the day, and what is the right temperature that you keep your house set at? In the wintertime, it's -2, -10 last night, I believe, at my house. And it didn't matter. I don't care how cold it is outside. The thermostat was about 62 degrees. And some people say, well, you keep your house real cold. I said, no, I don't keep my house real cold. You keep yours real hot. Do we have any consensus? I hope we didn't. Yeah. I just don't know how people do it. And there was a discussion yesterday, even at the around one of the fellows I met at the cigar lounge talking about thermostats and cold and things like that. So, and just quite curious, what is the grade temperature that you keep your thermostat at? All right, real quick, we talked about this Fauci pardon, and I want you to again remember the court case is Burdick versus the U.S. and pardoning Fauci was a confession without a trial. And basically, if you accept a pardon, according to Burdick versus U.S., look it up, you are taking on some onus of guilt, and you are now implicated that you are guilty. You don't accept a pardon unless the Supreme Court said in 1915, unless there's some acknowledgement that you're guilty. And now that you've acknowledged your guilt and you're pardoned and exempt from any punishment for your guilt, now you cannot evoke the Fifth Amendment because you have no reason to invoke the Fifth Amendment about the self-incrimination. And so that's how it all works. This is a court case. And so I think the question needs to be asked, if the media is going to ask it today, they need to go to all the Biden family members. They need to go to Liz Cheney. They need to go to all these people and ask them, do you accept the pardon? They can't say, well, yeah, because Trump's a mean man. No, if you accept a pardon, there's an implication that you are guilty, and then the investigation needs to go, because if you're guilty, probably someone you know is guilty. You probably did not act alone. There's probably a web of influence around you. And so, yeah, you might have gotten a pardon, but what about your kids or grandkids? Do they get a pardon? Or your business associates? So look up Burdick versus the U.S. Let me play a snippet of this. We'll do more of this tomorrow, but this is a little breakdown of if Anthony Fauci accepts his pardon, and I'm assuming he has, then Anthony Fauci will forever be remembered as a criminal, because to accept a pardon, you are admitting guilt of some crimes. That's the Supreme Court ruling of the United States of America. If you accept a pardon, you're admitting guilt. All right, Mr. Burdick in 1915 would not accept a pardon, so he could continue to plead the Fifth and prevent himself from self-incrimination. So I'm telling you, if you accept a pardon, according to SCOTUS, you're accepting guilt. So if Fauci accepts a pardon here, then he's admitting that he's a guilty criminal. And I want you to watch this. This is a little montage. We'll do more of this tomorrow. I'll play a snippet of it. But this is Dr. Fauci and the lies that he told. It's a montage, but let's do this one.
Criticizing science, because I represent science.
If you're vaccinated, you really don't need to worry about getting it in a way that's serious or transmitting it.
He's a liar.
That is true. That is correct, Chris. It'll either protect you completely against infection, and the chances are very likely that you'll not be able to transmit it to other people. The risk is extremely low of transmitting it to anybody else. Full stop. Vaccinated people are clearly capable of transmitting the infection. When you're in the middle of an outbreak, wearing a mask might make people feel a little bit better. If people are not wearing masks, then maybe we should be mandating it. I often myself wear 2 masks.
And I'm quoting you now, at the population level, masks work at the margins maybe 10%. To hear that they only work at the margins maybe 10% would make a lot of people ask, okay, then why was I wearing a mask?
You're really attacking not only Dr. Anthony Fauci, you're attacking science when you say that this is going to go away tomorrow like magic, when you know that there's no chance it's going to just disappear.
We hope this just goes away, burns itself out.
So my question is, why weren't you straight with the American people about this to begin with?
So the bottom line is, it's a guesstimate. I gave a range.
It seemed in that quote to suggest that you were basing your recommendation on polling and what people could accept. Is that not what you meant?
No, I mean, it's a bit of that.
We're seeing all of these school closures around the country. Is that the right move for children and families?
And I think what's going on right now is generally an appropriate approach. You want to start doing something to socially distance yourself. How dramatic that is, closing schools and doing other things, should be proportionate.
It went too far, that particularly for kids who couldn't go to school except remotely, that it's forever damaged them.
Well, I don't think it's forever irreparably damaged anyone.
The U.S. Surgeon General has called it an urgent public health crisis, a devastating decline in the mental health of kids across the country. According to the CDC, the rates of suicide, self-harm, anxiety, and depression are up among adolescents.
And the record will show, Neil, that we didn't recommend shutting everything down. First of all, I didn't recommend locking anything down.
I recommended to the president that we shut the country down. And that was a very difficult decision because I knew it would have serious economic consequences, which it did.
Yeah. Because if you look at the people that are politicizing me, there's somebody that all the way over on one level. But there are a lot of other people who look upon me the way they should, as a non-political person that I am.
They're not doing it because
I'm gonna pull it down. There's more of that. I'll put the whole montage up. We'll play more of that tomorrow. Anybody think Dr. Fauci would look good in orange? I'm telling you the crimes I'm thinking he's committed, the lies he's told before Congress. And if he accepts that pardon, then that he's admitting his guilt, and he cannot evoke the Fifth Amendment. And if he does, then he's going to be held in contempt of court or contempt of Congress. Somebody asked, how long do they have to wait to accept the pardon? I don't know if the verdict case said there's a formal acceptance, but I'm guessing if you have a pardon thrown at you, like Adam Schiff has said he didn't want a pardon. I'm guessing you accept it. If you don't want it and you don't want to have your name affiliated with guilt, you need to come out immediately and say, I do not accept this pardon. I did not do anything wrong. I am not guilty. And you just got to deny it. Other than that, I think it's just assumed that it will go get to you. A couple of other snippets from yesterday, and then we're going to watch what happens. Supposedly, there's Trump's going to make some big news. He's going to try to make big news all week, and it's going to be interesting to see his first couple of days in office. He did tweet this, our truth this last night on his Truth Social platform. He says, our first day in the White House is not over yet. So this was last night. My presidential personnel office is actively in process of identifying and removing over 1,000 presidential appointees from the previous administration who are not aligned with our vision to make America great again. So what happens yesterday is as soon as he takes the oath of office, a new staff goes into the West Wing, and they start taking over, and they can start making some personnel decisions that aren't necessarily cabinet level. And so there's a lot of presidential appointees that are there. And as soon as the I do was done yesterday, that they went in and started firing people. But he says this, and maybe you know some names. He says, this serve as the official notice of dismissal for these 4 individuals, with many more coming soon. Jose Andres from the President's Council on Sports, Fitness, and Nutrition, Mark Milley from the National Infrastructure Advisory Council, Brian Hook from the Wilson Center for Scholars, and Keisha Lance Bottoms from the President Export Council. He wrote, "You're fired." So the public firing is going to be interesting to see who's let go from the White House. All right, one of the highlights yesterday was I'll try to get the video of this. If you missed the prayer of the pastor from Detroit yesterday, I was so tempted. We were watching that live at the Casbar Cigar, and I was so tempted to, at that point, just start playing the Jimmy Lakey Mass Choir that opens up the show, and for years has followed me on the radio show. I was so excited. I was ready to do that. It was the choir. I was ready. We've got to get that pastor and maybe get an interview with him, but definitely need to play that prayer again. One of the other highlights at Carrie Underwood. She did a great job. Oh, okay. Happening now, Donald Trump has revoked security clearances of 51 officials who discredited Hunter's laptop. That is beautiful. Thank you, producer Chad, for finding that story. Those 51 officials who none of them saw Hunter Biden's laptop. It was put together by Anthony Blinken. If you recall, Anthony Blinken wanted an appointment in the administration. He was advisor to the to the Biden campaign, and this Hunter Biden laptop was out there. And so he got these 51 officials and called in favors and said, hey, would you sign a paper saying that this is Russian disinformation? And these jackwagon security people with a political bias, they had full security clearances. They said, yeah, we'll test this as Russian disinformation. No evidence other than Blinken, who's an idiotic Secretary of State. Blinken told them that this was the case, and they signed on. So the security clearances of those 51 officials who discredited the Hunter Biden laptop have been told it's not happening anymore. So good for them. That's a great thing. Another part of the inauguration yesterday was Carrie Underwood doing the America the Beautiful a cappella. A technical glitch, if you recall, the backing track stopped working after a couple of seconds, and eventually somebody was up, the stage manager was up there talking, and you can see she just said, I can just sing it. And then she encouraged everybody to sing along, and it was beautiful. She did a great job singing it. Well, it could be rumor and innuendo. The Daily Mail claims in the Daily Mail, quote, that she had a mini hissy fit. That's a quote. They quoted unnamed sources that said she was dissatisfied with the performance, not just because of the glitch. She was also expecting more of a stage. Quote, the unnamed source in the Daily Mail says she felt like she was not allowed the same level of respect and admiration that previous performers such as Beyonce and Lady Gaga had received. Of course, they sang it. Beyonce sang the national anthem at Obama's second inauguration in 2013. Gaga did it at Biden's in 2021. So, well, of course, you're in the rotunda. I'm sure if you're a performer, you want to be on the big stage on the west steps of the Capitol, but that was not the case yesterday. So was there a hissy fit? I don't know. But Carrie Underwood, you did a great job. You're a beautiful lady. And if you haven't, if you want to bless your heart, watch that again. Go Google Carrie Underwood sings How Great Thou Art, and it will make a good day. Also happening now, there's flurry of activity. Jack Smith, they wanted Jack Smith and the Justice Department, the bureaucrats here wanted to release the second half of the Jack Smith report because Jack Smith said, I'll show you all the evidence I had against you, Trump. And a judge says, knock it off. They blocked this release of Jack Smith stuff. And that's going to be interesting. Did Jack Smith get a pardon? I mean, it just... Biden opened up a Pandora's box on pardons, and not that you want to have lawfare, but if any of these people committed crimes, that's all I'm asking for. I don't want to prosecute political enemies, but if they committed crimes and colluded against the Constitution, colluded against a fair and free elections, and colluded to take down a political enemy, then I hope that there's retribution that shall come to them in the legal system. And again, it's going to be very, very interesting to see how it all pans out. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again to everybody who came out to the inauguration. A lot of you sent me messages saying, Lakey, it's too cold and too freezing. A lot of folks did. I know a couple of guys drove an hour and a half to get there. Slick roads. It took me an hour, and I didn't live that far away. So it was a rough road yesterday, but it was still, by the end of the morning, by the end of the inauguration, when people could slide through the streets of Colorado, it was still a pretty big crowd that gathered yesterday. Thanks to Tony Pfeiffer and the crew at the Casbar Cigar in Lafayette. They also have a location in the Parker, Colorado area for hosting us, letting us come in and crash the party yesterday. And it was a fun time, and we'll try to do some more of those in the near future. Also, I haven't pushed this, and I've got a new interview that's going to drop this, I think, today or tomorrow at the Patreon page, patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. It's an interview that you probably would be shut down off YouTube because they don't like half the stuff we do, but it deals with this. It's a new book by co-written by Dr. Barkey, and it deals with that word right there. And it talks about the modern day protocols for that your children are recommended. And it also, he compares and talks about what changed in the late 80s that caused these things here to be a lot different than they were maybe than when you were a child. And it actually goes back to the days of Ronald Reagan. So there's a lot of content back there behind the paywall. And the interview with Dr. Barkey is going to drop here real soon. I think today or tomorrow it drops, and you're going to get it. You want to get it. It's a 7-day free trial. It's a way you can support the Daily Update. Keep it free. Go support it. It's going to be a great interview with Dr. Barkey. I think you'll be fascinated by it. There's more content comes out really a couple of times a week sometimes, just as it produces, we put it behind the paywall. We can't play it. We don't play it here. And again, this is stuff, if I played this on this platform here, you need to know we would be shut down. The tube of the U would knock us down. I'm guessing Facebook, if the algorithms haven't changed, it's content that is probably in the world of free speech. You should hear it and get the information and draw your own conclusions. But the reason you need to go to patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey is I'm putting stuff not to hide it from you, not to try to milk $9.95 a month. It's Patreon is a place that you can actually access this content. And this interview particularly is content that you're not going to get in. If we played it, matter of fact, we'll have to scrub and look for excerpts that aren't going to get us in trouble on the tube of the U and get the program shut down. So the Patreon page is not just like a gimmick to get money from you. I mean, it's a great way to support the program, but the Patreon page is also a way that I can get you content that I normally can't put out here in this streamcast, because a lot of the Silicon Valley gods don't like real information getting to you. They like to filter it. So I'm telling you, go to patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. Also this week, we talk about advertisers. Going to start unveiling our advertising family. If there's still room for some people, If you'd like to be an advertiser or a sponsor of the show in any way, big business, small business, there's advertising packages to support the show. $25. I mean, it's per show. It's not as expensive as you might. Maybe it's more expensive than you thought. But there's a lot of ways you can support the show, and advertising is one of those ways. So this week we're going to start unveiling and introducing you to some of our sponsors that are coming on board with us, and I look forward to introducing them to you. If you're interested, I'd love to hear from you. You need to get in quick. We have the Founding Fathers package. Send it to info@jimmylakey.com, info@jimmylakey.com. We'll send you a media and advertising kit, and from there, you can make your decision. But again, space can be limited, and some places do have like exclusive kind of more exclusive levels of exclusivity. And so anyway, I'll get you the package, but you come support us. If you'd like to keep this free, we need advertisers and subscribers, and that will make this a very good and happy thing. All right, everybody, it's the first full day of President 47. May God bless you. May God bless America. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, don't forget my charity work, Rivers Promise. They're currently the sponsor of the show until we get a studio sponsor. So that's still open, by the way. RiversPromise.org. We could use your help. We're still running a little bit behind for January, to be honest. RiversPromise.org. RiversPromise.org. I am Jimmy Lakey. Thanks for tuning in. God bless America. God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump, and keep him safe and healthy. Peace. I'm out of here.